Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Munoz. Each episode, I bring on an amazing Black woman as part of my 29 Days of Mention campaign. And today, I am super delighted to have Susan Akinyi Tindi, who is an account supervisor at VMLY&R. She has a really awesome story. You're going to love it. Take a listen. Hey, Susan.
Hi, Laura. How's it going?
Oh, just sitting here interviewing people all day long. As you know, the podcast starts off the same for everybody, and the answers are always amazing. I have no doubt yours would be especially awesome. So, Susan, what was your first job?
My first job was when I came to the US. So I came to the US when I was 17, and I was an international student. So when you're an international student in the US, you're not allowed to work off of campus. You can only work on campus. So my first job was working at the Welcome Center at my alma mater at this point, I think I was making $10 an hour.
Oh, geez.
And I would work 2 hours a week. And also, as being an international student, the cap is 20 hours a week. You can't work more than that. You can't work off of campus. That's it. So I used to welcome people into our building.
Okay. For 2 hours a week for $10 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
She got like $18, or did they take taxes out of that? And
after taxes, it was $11 per
my
paycheck.
God.
And
oh my God.
I actually saved all those pay stubs for I think a whole year. That's when I deposited it, because I couldn't bring myself to deposit $11 into my account every week.
Could you not have asked them to be like, can I get a few more hours, or you just like couldn't do it?
So that's where the fear of being an immigrant and asking too many questions come in, because you often feel like what you're being given is like someone else deserves it. And that's something that I've struggled with, feeling like I should just take less than because I'm taking from someone else, as an immigrant, as maybe someone else is more deserving than me. But I've gotten better at that now. But in the beginning, it was like, I'm not going to ask for more hours because also they already said I can only do 20, so I can't really do more. Long time.
I can see how this would be a thing. Okay, so we go from the greeter job to where you are now. What has that journey been like?
If we're being honest, it's been easy, but also hard in some ways. Easy in that I was very fortunate to join when I joined the advertising industry. Typically they don't sponsor junior talent. They'll start sponsoring at like mid, more senior. But it's like I had guardian angels at the agency at the time that really fought for me to make sure I stayed here, because I had two options. When you graduate out of college, you get 1 year of work in the US legally. If the company you work for doesn't sponsor you, then your other option is to go back to school. So I just happened to be, and it's a lottery system, so it's not like it's guaranteed. You get sponsored, that you'll get selected. So they applied for me. I was selected. A lot of like my international student friends, they weren't as fortunate. So I say that it's been great, because then now I can really stay in the country and I don't have to worry so much about, do I have to go back to school? Am I going to have to go back to Kenya? Like, now it's a choice. If I choose that I'm going back, I choose that I'm going back, versus feeling like I have no other choice. But also it's been hard being a Black woman in corporate America. But it's getting better. It's getting better.
Wow, I had no idea that it's a lottery system. So even if you get the job, you could still be like, actually, no.
Yeah, don't be late. And you apply in March 1st, and the lottery closes on the 15th. You find out on April 1st if you got it or if you didn't get it.
On April Fool's Day. Good God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's horrific. So what made you decide to come here at 17 from Kenya?
Uh, I I really have severe anxiety. Um, and a lot of so I grew up in Kenya, sometime in Ethiopia, sometime in the US, and then we went back to Kenya. So to me, like safety was always in the US, which is quite ironic. I always felt the safest here. And so many things happened back home that just had me like, I don't know if I really want to stay here. Um, as I try to figure out what my journey or what my future would look like. And thank God my mom was on board. So she was like, you want to leave? We'll figure out how to get you out. And fortunately, I got a visa at the embassy, which they deny people all the time. And my uncle and cousins live in the US, so it was an easy transition because we're quite a close-knit family. So I came at 17, uh, actually 2 weeks to my 18th birthday, and I never left.
Wow. And so this is interesting. So you're 2 weeks before you turn 18. This is I'm guessing, the early aughts. Was it a big culture shock?
No, it
Really?
wasn't. It wasn't because so I'll tell you a small story about my grandma. My grandma was this smart, like very forward-thinking woman for her time, and her parents were her father specifically was very big on women being more than just mothers. And in his village, like he was the first to be like, my daughter is not just going to be a wife, she has to be something else. So my grandma became a teacher and then became a headmistress, and she taught English in a time where they were only teaching in Swahili or in the village where she's from in our tribal language. So to me, I've always been like surrounded by trailblazers. So I couldn't really be like, oh, this is so different. And because my family would come over so often, it wasn't a huge, like, it didn't feel different. It felt more progressive and more like organized in terms of like structure and access to things. But I was more excited to be out of Kenya. I was just like, yay. I can do this and it'll get done now. I don't have to, I don't know, pay someone. So that the efficiency was what I was most excited for, particularly for a Virgo like me that likes process.
Ah, you're a Virgo. This is now all making lots of sense. Got it. Process, process, process. Uh-huh. So, what is it you actually do now as an account supervisor?
I like to say I like to say I'm the bridge or the liaison between the clients, the agency, the creative team, and the delivery team. Um, I'm the person that like knows I have the client's voice in the back of my head, but also I want to see the creative team and like the internal team do like light up a room. I'm big on collaborating and making sure that my team is happy, because if you're working with a team that's not happy, then the work feels that way. And also just for me and the relationships that I build, I just want to make sure that you're good. This is what's due. This is how it needs to be done. If you're pushing back, let's have a discussion. So I'm the point person for everybody. That's how I describe it. Also, I send emails for a living, but my husband doesn't like when I say that.
Listen, so do I. It's all good.
It's like it is what it is. That's what I do.
They have to make sense. They have to be good. And they have to be clear. So
Exactly.
there is a skill, because some people cannot write good emails, and you're like, what is this?
Hmm.
So having that skill is incredibly necessary. So talk to me about a time when you had a challenge and you're like, there's no way I'm getting through this, and then you did.
The year was 2020. So I've always worked on like DTC brands. So anything that's like consumer facing. And in the beginning of the pandemic, the client that we were working on left the agency, and the only place they could put me in was HCP. I'd never done HCP in my life. And I know it's something that I know now for myself is not something that I would choose for myself. It's very much like high science and like very hard to, like, I'm talking to a doctor. I'm married to one, but I don't want to talk to doctors. And it was when I joined the team, my manager left 2 months into it. So I'm like trying to learn this new world. It doesn't make sense to me. And let's just say there's a lot of crying and a lot of like, why am I doing this happening? But then at the same time that I joined the HCP world, the internal team launched Ujima, which is like a mentee mentor program. And I kid you not, they were my lifeline. Anytime I was having self-doubt and like fear of like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? We miraculously had a meeting, and we had these therapy sessions where you would just come in and just cry or like talk about like, this is really, I'm struggling with this. And you know, as I don't know, a young account person at my level, whatever, you only think that like junior people are the ones that are struggling. So to hear like more senior, more like seasoned people in the industry saying like, I don't know what's happening either, it made me realize we're all human.
Mm-hmm.
I might be struggling with this. It's not just me. My struggle is different to what you might be struggling with. But hearing that and also getting the love and support, I was able to push through that season. But I didn't think I was going to be able to when we first started.
That's awesome. And it's so necessary for folks to know that, like, you've got to find your tribe wherever they
Mm-hmm.
are. And also that whatever you're going through, you are not the only one going through it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their struggles, everybody has their challenges, and it oftentimes it is just helpful just to articulate it to somebody and be
Mm-hmm.
like, am I crazy or is this bug? And 99% of the time, no, we are in the same boat. And we have those challenges, and especially when you're in the middle of a pandemic where you're like, what in the world am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Um, so that's really amazing that you were able to find that awesome tribe and be able to hold that space. Thinking about what you've been able to accomplish along the way, obviously, what would you tell 18-year-old Susan?
It's so funny because I was reading this for this month. My challenge is to read a book a week. And I only read books by African authors. So I just finished a book called Yinka, Where's Your Husband? Which the title isn't what you should go with, but there's a section in the book where the main character is talking to her therapist, and the therapist tells her to write a letter to her 18-year-old self. So that had me thinking last night, like, what would I tell myself? And now you're asking me the same question. So it's like a full circle moment. I would tell myself, don't give up. Don't give up and don't give other people so much power over you. Your journey is long and there are going to be a lot of bumps, but just always stay true to yourself and believe that when you put one foot forward, the next one will come. And I always, if I ever get a tattoo, which will be one day, what I would get is Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. That line alone has gotten me through so much. So 18-year-old self, you will rise, and you will do so many incredible things, big and small. Don't give up on yourself.
I love that. And yeah, we still rise and we keep on rising and we don't stop.
Mm-hmm.
So now that you are fully aware of how you've been able to rise and you've also been able to find your tribe, what do you do for Susan? What do you do for your self-care?
Well, I love me a good book. I'm also a homebody. I was actually talking to my prayer group earlier this week. We're talking about how, when you're committing to something, you're like, I really want to do it. And then the day comes, you're like, I have to leave my house. So the older I'm getting, I'm more comfortable just being home. I've never been really comfortable being in big groups. For someone that talks so much, I get drained.
Yeah.
And no one actually believes me, and I'm like, I'm really not this outgoing in general. Um, but when I find the people that bring it out of me, you can't get me to stop talking. But I read a lot. My nails make me very happy when they're not done. I get like, I start wondering, do I still make $10 an hour again? Like, why don't my nails look good?
I love it.
And just being by myself, like be looking inward at like, am I a good person? Am I a good supportive friend? Or like, how can I be better? Like doing continuous work on myself by myself, I find very therapeutic. But give me a book any day in a corner. And now that I'm decorating my house, that's self-care to me.
Oh, home decor makes you happy? It makes me very happy.
Oh, I
I
love it. I'm like, oh, I want that tile. My husband's like, pick one and stop sending me so many options. Um, so, but when you're younger, you think it's very scary being your own friend, but then when it
Right.
becomes something that like it's not forced upon yourself, like you have to be your own friend. And I've never been one to get validation from others. I could care less like what you want me to do. I might care what you think, but I'm not gonna do what you want me to do just because you've said it. I'll always challenge that, but there's a beauty in knowing that I would be fine by myself without having to lean on a lot of people for what I can find within myself.
I love that. Susan, you are ridiculously self-aware. I love it.
I drop gems.
Uh, and the thing about the nails is true. I do this as well, where it's like if I look down at my nails, I'm like, what? Oh God, okay, I need to get my nails done. What?
I'm like,
Um,
I'll even text my husband. I'm like, am I poor? He's like, why are you asking me?
it's like, what have I done? I forgot to get my nails done. It is a thing because the act of having someone do your nails is actually the most relaxing thing about it. Because like obviously I
Hmm.
can do them at home, but that's not the point. I want to sit in a comfy chair and get my nails
Hmm.
done. Like
Hmm.
it is relaxing for me.
Exactly.
Um, that's the last question for you. Do you have a give and or an ask? And this could be anything. So I feel like you can recommend a book. You can give a piece of advice. Anything you want.
Can I do both? Or it has to be
Of course
one?
you can.
I would give, so there are two books by the same author that I would recommend for everyone. Let me grab them so I don't butcher the title. Okay, so they're both by Yaa Gyasi. So the first one is Homecoming. That book got me through 2017, the bleakest year of my life. And then Transcendent Kingdom by Yaa Gyasi. Those are a good starting point for anyone that's looking to get lost in a book, but also walk away with so much understanding and empathy in word form. So that would be my give, and my ask would be just for more like fearless leaders like you, Laura, that take the time to give back and like listen to little old me. Because representation really matters, and knowing that like I can come to you and ask you for advice or just have a conversation where it doesn't feel like, oh my God, I have to schedule time, and if you're not available, then it feels like I don't have access to you. Just more great leaders like you that take the time to reach back and give back. That would be it.
Aw, Susan, thank you.
You're welcome.
You're one of my faves, and you can always, as long as I'm in the country, you can always come by and in the office, you can come by my desk anytime. If I'm not on the phone, or talking to somebody else who's done this same thing you have, and maybe I'll get you Beyonce tickets. We'll see.
Maybe. We're working on that.
It's a project. I am. But thank you so much for being on the podcast. You are a delight. You're one of my favorites. And just, I'm so proud of the amazing woman that you are and you are growing into being. And I just love watching you shine. So I'm so thankful that you were able to come on the podcast today. We're going to put the details in the show notes for those great books that you mentioned, because I too have had books where, like, if I don't read this right now, I don't even know where I'd be. So I know how the power of the word, sometimes hits you at the moment you needed to hear it and you needed to see it across a page. So I think that's so very important. So thank you so much for sharing those. And thank you for being part of 29 Days of Magic.
No, thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Cool. And that is our show.